custom cross member under there, all plate, integrated beam pivots, roughly 12 inches of up travel.
Look at this, man. Oh my god.
So
what's up, guys? We're over here at Morgan Clark's Fab Studio. I got it.
Hey, man.
I got it.
Yeah,
I got it. Dylan's here. And he's gonna share with us his new project, Salina.
Hey, what's going on, guys? So sorry to interrupt, but we want to let you guys know about an event we got coming up September 10th in the city of Temecula. It's called Pre-Runner Paradise. It's a drive-in movie, pre-runner meet, and mini pre-runner expo. You guys can see a bunch of trucks from like our videos, and all vehicles are welcome to attend. Doesn't have to be an off-road vehicle. Also, we have the Sand Sports Expo coming up September 16th through 18th in Orange County, and the Off-Road Expo October 1st and 2nd at the LA Fairgrounds. Also, we got some new gear. Boom, right here. That's the back right there. Check it out. It's fresh on the site right now. Thank you guys so much for freaking supporting us. This has been awesome, and looking forward to seeing you guys at all the upcoming events. Use the code Terra Crew for Sand Sports Expo and Off-Road Expo, and you get $5 off. Later, dudes.
I wouldn't say it's like a new project, but it's one of our current ones that's getting closer and closer to completion. And it's a special truck, just like everything else. So yeah, I figured we'd talk about it.
This thing's kind of always in the background of a couple of their episodes. Did we touch on it before? I think once, right?
I don't know. It's been asked about. Like, it's on my page. People
Right.
always want to see it.
Yeah. Again, guys, Morgan Clark has a channel, and if you guys, I think, are you gonna do some stuff on it?
Yeah, we have it. It's more in detail. You know?
Okay.
It's like we geek out a little more.
Yeah.
Just for
Yeah.
people that want to sit and actually listen to us talk about real gnarly details.
In-depth
Yeah.
stuff. Well, there you go, guys. You guys can check out Morgan's stuff. It's on his channel. Please do. Subscribe to his channel.
Oh, thanks, Dad.
Yeah, so we're over here, guys. We're going to take a good look at this thing. This is a BEAMED Tundra, and there's not very many of these.
It's a 2016 BEAMED Tundra. It came to us, so JP owns this thing. It came in running condition with like a bed cage and I think like an upper arm and a coilover on it. We shortened the wheelbase right off the bat. Like, we were already set to do a back half on it, run 4-inch bypasses, 3-inch coilovers, big fuel cell, Blitzkrieg fuel cell cradle, 110-gallon cell, and shorten the wheelbase. And we kind of started on the back. We were waiting for a kit from a manufacturer, and that thing has 35 inches of travel in the back. And then we're like, well, how do we run a kit that has 16 inches in the front?
With that much rear wheel
And it's
travel.
just like
Yeah.
you know, Jerry Laramore's truck was like, the Jug was a short wheelbase truck, and it had like 17 or 18, and you know, it had a predisposition for sky wheelies.
Yeah.
So just having a big, heavy 4-door truck with all this big shit in the back, and then, you know, minimal front suspension travel, just didn't work out. It's a 4-wheel drive truck too. So Andrew Cho has these beams, these fabricated beams. You call them Cho beams. That's kind of like the term.
Ocho.
Yeah, and we just talked with him, and I talked to JP, and I like jokingly, I was like, we should beam this thing. And he's like, yeah, we should. Let's do that. And it like trickled into that, and now it's just perfect. It's exactly what it needed. It's Cho beams, but you know, I measured the frame rail before we actually pulled the trigger on it. I measured the frame rail interior width just to kind of compare the spread to a Bronco. And the spread of this thing was a 1/2 inch wider than a Bronco. So right there, I'm like, okay, I can work with that, because all we're going to do is we're going to replicate the pivot locations, X and Y, of a Bronco, and just put it on a Tundra. So then the beams and everything function like they should. We're not like trying to reinvent the wheel. We're just literally copying and pasting Bronco front end on this thing. So that's what we did, and you know, that involved a lot, tons of labor and hours and R&D and design. But it's got a full, like a custom cross member under there, all plate, integrated beam pivots, passenger and driver side, and then the frame is also notched. So it's got roughly 12 inches of up travel. It's kind of the running theme, I guess, here, but 12 inches of up travel from ride height.
Awesome.
Working 4-wheel drive. It's at 24 inches right now, but that's not with the axles in there, and I know that that's going to be like our limiting factor.
That's possibly going to change some things, right?
Yeah, and if it
but not very much, right?
No, and we'll spend the money to get like whatever kind of U-joint we need to in there, and whatever kind of slip, where it maximizes that. Like that's a given, you know, just that we do that. So Cho's got like a new beam end that has like a uniball and a custom spindle. We're going to retrofit these with that setup, so we can run his actual spindle and his, you know, his hub and his brake package, and he's going to design just a special kit for this to retrofit it, because we don't want to replace the whole beam. There's too much work into these things already.
So he just kind of, since you guys started this project, he made a 2.0.
Yeah, well, he's had these with like the, you know, a lot of guys are running Broncos with like big shocks, big motor, big tires.
Yeah.
And the Dana 44 that's on the end of these things is like kind of the weak link. And, you know, you're running like a big rear end in the back and big hubs and everything, and to not be able to match that up front, it's something that had to happen. So there's a couple guys that have a kit that works for four-wheel drive stuff, but it only makes sense to run Andrew's stuff. You know, he's a buddy, and I love his product and I stand by it, so it's like I wouldn't, why would I run anybody else's on his kit? It's got a extended sector shaft box. There's like a sector shaft support that goes here that's just sitting on the table, but this lifts the steering box up and it gets it out of the way. That's a PSS, power steering solution box, that Charlie does. So that'll get ported, have a RAM assist.
Has Andrew ever put these beams on any other Tundra?
No, these are usually just a Bronco or maybe a F-150, something.
Okay.
I think a couple Rangers might have them.
Yeah, I think right now he's actually doing one on Silverado.
That's sick.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. B-Fitzy guy.
B-Fitzy.
Yeah.
We actually did an episode on that thing
a while back.
Yeah, a little bit back.
I remember watching that.
Really clean Silverado,
Yeah.
and that thing's in the process right now. 4-wheel drive beams, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
So
And
it's pretty exciting, dude, to see that this application is applicable to. Well, you guys are making it applicable to other things with some changes. But
yeah, I mean.
But it's gonna work out. I mean, dude, that's a ton of trouble. I mean, you know.
Yeah, we'll let it down in a minute. I'll go through the rest of the car and show you stuff, and then we'll let this thing down and I'll take all the front off. What we can do is just kind of start with like the chassis in here. So obviously it's a 4-door cab. Tundra, this generation Tundra, like the back door, if you look like the front door and then you look at the back door, like it's a considerable amount of space. And when we shorten the wheelbase, I kind of thought about all this stuff first to make sure we could pull it off. But we wanted to shorten the wheelbase as much as we could before the back tire at compression would crash into the back wall.
Into the cab.
So not at ride height, because this thing does swing on an arch, right? So when the arch comes up to bump, it pulls the tire in a little bit, so we set it at bump. It's 1.5 inches, a 40-inch tire is 1.5 inches at bump from the back cab.
Wow.
So the bed sides will get grafted not just onto the cab, but onto the back door. And I also, you know, part of the thing to consider is like having the shocks in the cab, so the motion ratio is right, where it's not like a crew cab link where you have the coilover and the bypass towards the rear, you know, towards the axle housing, but you have it like the motion ratio is just like a regular truck, you know, or an extra cab or a race truck or whatever. 55-inch Blitzkrieg links. I'll jump back to the cab, just bear with me. So the frame rails are so wide on this thing that it gave us the opportunity just to put the pivots right into the rear of the frame rail.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it's like when this thing compresses, it's kind of like a Swiss Army knife. It just clink, clink, and the radius arm mounts up front do the same thing. But they're just grafted right into the back of the frame rail, because you can see like the gap from frame to cab, like that's substantially less than like a Silverado or an F-150.
Yeah.
You know, so
that's so cool.
We took that.
What a nice convenience.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of, I started back to like, just like we built it. You know, we identified where the link and the trailing arm mounts were going to be first and kind of solidified the frame. So I'm just going to go through the build the same way, just to kind of follow the process. All the frame in here is all plated. So, you know, Tundra or Toyota, they boxed everything kind of classic, like from the trans cross member forward is all boxed. And then right where you see this is open C-channel. So we put vertical ribs in here, which are, you know, slotted here. So that goes to the other side of the frame rail. That's welded, and then all this is capped. It's all chromoly plate. You can see these tubes, they land in different directions. Well, different orientation here. And that's to spread the load between the frames. So instead of banking all these tubes into one little zone, it's spreading that load through the frame. So it's not moving at all. You can kind of see where it kicks out here. So that's your pivot. And that's kind of like our secret recipe as far as spread and height on the lower and upper link. It's just like a recipe that I learned a long time ago, and it's proven to work really good on trucks. Did those, and then, you know, this back half here, this is a Blitzkrieg 110 gallon cell with a radius dual spare setup in the back. So that was kind of, it's a plug and play thing.
Quick, somebody do the math on that really quick. California
like $1,000
91.
It's like $1,000.
California gas prices.
But that was before Biden, so I don't know.
Comment how much it is to fill this thing up.
440 something and 429.
Not doing math.
Like 442.9.
You guys let us know. How about this per state? You guys tell us what it would be to fill up per state. So comment your
110
state.
gallon cell.
110 gallon cell. Let us know.
So what I like about this cradle is, and we're going to develop our own cradle, but Nate at Blitzkrieg is solid. The plug and play where you can get a cradle like this, and then you kind of just connect the dots, right? So,
just directly to the cell.
well, like this tube where the bump is here, like that tube rearward is all part of that cradle. So we square this into the car, set it where we want, and then tie in, right?
Yeah.
Part of the thing too with shortening the wheelbase and shortening the pivots is you lose your frame rail where the C-pillar is. So a lot of the structure under here is tied in where we still have a C-pillar wall here, but there's no load of frame rail here. So there's a lot of integration if you look under there where it's all tied in, and it's split into a lot of different parts. Just to be able to disperse that, because you know that if that takes a huge impact up there, you want to be able to spread it out where it's not just gonna shit the bed. Here, you can see the cell.
Bend or break the back half, right? I mean,
Well,
that's why it's all distributed like that.
Yeah, yeah. So we always leave, like these down tubes are just tacked right now, so we can get in and work. These always kind of are the last thing you weld, just the same as like a door bar if you have a big door bar, because you want to be able to get in there and work on the interior portions of the chassis before that stuff gets, you know, you're hopping over extra. So this thing, we ditched the roll down back window just so the packaging would work out. We're just gonna put a sill in here, and then we sourced a Tundra, just a flat one piece of glass that'll go back in there with its sill. So it's not, it doesn't have
room still though, even though the seat.
Oh, it's huge room. So inside, like you can see the footwell area, and then this will fit 2 full-size Sparcos in here, no problem. Like where you're not just doing shoulder and elbow contact.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with this cab, like you can see it's a big old cab. There's just so much room. And so everything is just root pass. Like obviously this stuff we weld on the table, and then, you know, everything into the chassis is just root pass. You can see it's all kind of just prepped for final welding. Just like any other chassis stuff we do, it's just a double pass with a root and a cover. This will all be sealed up. Obviously service panels here to service the shocks. And then there's a lot of foot room here, and that's kind of what we favor. We didn't want to put like a big gnarly B-pillar situation here. Okay. We wanted to have it be open where it's not constricted. You know, it's sometimes it bums you out when you get into like, you know, a 4-seat truck, and that the B-pillar has so much tube work where it obstructs, like it disconnects the rear occupants from feeling like they're part of the truck. It's like you're in a little cage. Right. Yeah, I mean you are in a cage, but
right,
you get what I'm saying.
But like you're in a cage within a cage.
Yeah, so this is simplified. I mean, you can see like some of this tube draws pretty gnarly up towards the B-pillar. So it's enough structure there where it works. And then these are just our harness bars for the front. Like I've said before, I like to do actual tubing for your shoulder restraints versus like a little eyelet that you'd weld. There's something about that doesn't make me feel comfortable.
You just feel good about that.
Yeah, all the factory sheet metal, just like any cage we do, it's the same thing. It's all cut out, and this thing is, you know, paper tight. Dynamat, 2 layers of Dynamat on the top, and then all the cage. So this whole thing is usually we put it up here and we root pass everything we can, and then we build it so it comes out through the windshield, and we weld the whole thing 360 degrees on a table or pipe stands, and then we put it back in here. So every single portion of the, you know, all the junctions up there that are buried in the roof are all 360 welded. Something else that was cool with this is you can see like the Tundra has this crazy radius where, you know, traditionally like an A-pillar kind of has like that guy and then a kink, you know, where it has a bend. And we noticed that like if we did it, it's just gonna look so weird in there. It's not gonna have a place. So we
a lot of the new trucks are kind of like that, right? Even like the new Chevy has like a big old.
A lot of the modern trucks, yeah. So
it's kind of like the vibe right now.
We opted to just roll the whole thing, and you know, I don't know if I've said it before, but Sean, I do all like the design direction on this stuff, but this has been Sean's baby, and Sean's taken, like when he started with me, I kind of told him, I said, this is going to be your project. You know, I'll have to pull you off for some stuff, but this is going to be like your thing, and I'll tell you exactly how to do stuff, and I'll show you. But it's going to be your project, and he's taken it and ran with it like all the way. Like if you see, everything kind of follows the cab profile, and then the same up there, like that's rolled, and that actually, that's the factory sheet metal, and we just rolled it right to the factory sheet metal where you can just tack it right to it. And another thing, like the truck is so high because we're, you know, when we were doing like the upper portion of the cage, it's lower. But to really work on this thing comfortably, especially with Sean, he's a big, tall Tatanka. So, you know, getting this thing where you're comfortable, where you can like sit or just work, you know, we're working on all the front end and doing the glass and the coolers. And it's a lot easier to get these things up super high and they're still safe. And I'm sure someone will ask, these are Sumner pipe stands. You can get them on Amazon. I definitely get like this brand and not get something cheap. They're usually 75 to 100 bucks, but these are like the go-to and always have that secondary thing locked. But you know, I think people see them and they're like, where do you get the jack stands? And these are like so invaluable to building stuff like this because you can get them up high.
Service, prep, everything, man.
Yeah, and you can really fine tune the leveling on them. Another issue with like caging a lot of modern trucks is they have a really big mechanism for the moonroof up here, and what I don't like about that is if that thing fails, you know, it's just a plastic mechanism that takes the glass and does that thing. If that fails and you need to replace that whole module, that mechanism, guess what? Your cage is in there. Oh, cool. So you're just gonna have rattly broken plastic shit for who knows how long, or you're gonna have to cut it out or cut the roof off. So what we do here is we kept the moonroof, but we just made a steel return. So instead of it being like, you know, a window that opens, it just rests in here and it's glued in here, just like your front glass. So it's dusty, obviously, but you can see it's level. And that's kind of where we masked it and painted it. But that's just sitting in here like a return, and it'll just get glued and stay in place. So you'll have like a moonlight, you know, or some kind of daylight opening there, but you're not going to have a mechanism that's going to fail. Standard signature stuff we've been doing with the intrusion bars. This is all aero tube, so it's a streamlined tube. I don't know if you can see it, but it's if you looked at it from a top or a bottom of the profile, it would be like a teardrop. And we're running this stuff on every truck that gets a cage, just for the intrusion bars. Here's like a signature, but you can see like everything's fully welded. It's kind of hard to get in there, but the whole thing's welded, I promise. Door bars, the whole door bar thing, like we wanted to do like a lacing, almost like a bridge, where these guys go straight to the radius arm mount under here, which you can see, that's also tied into the frame where it's flush. And then this structure keeps going, so it goes to radius arm, then it goes to A-pillar, then it goes to bump stop. So it's all dispersing the load. Like all the sheet metal's done, so everything's been welded to the frame under here, and then this is all kind of just waiting to be welded. It's the same with like, you know, all these junctions are just root passed. Everything that's up there that's buried is welded, but all this other stuff is just waiting for final weld. And one of the things Colin did do when he first started, I gave the sheet metal to him just to see how he'd do. And he attacked it pretty well. I can get some of this stuff off. A lot of it's just for mock-up. You can just see it's that bump right now. One of the things too with like a twin traction beam setup is the passenger side beam is shorter than the driver's side. So what you get there is at compression, you do get more camber, you know, just because it's a, you know, a longer, if a stick, if you will, with a perpendicular surface on the end. So the longer stick is going to have less camber and vice versa. So what we're doing right now is we're solidifying front fender mounts, obviously like headlight grill mounts, the core support in here. The cooler was done before that. So everything's just bumped, and there's gonna be issues. Like, we try to build these things where they bump and they turn lock to lock, and they're clear of everything. And already right now this thing wants to eat the headlight. So we're gonna have to figure out a solution to that problem. But I can let the passenger down. There we go. All right, so this thing drooped. That's what 24 is from our compression angle. We have a bigger package of shock up here actually, which is a 4.5 bypass piggyback and a 3-inch coilover, both fin reservoir, 2.5 inch, 2-inch stroke bump stop. And you can kind of see all the shock mounts on the beam. We have a mock-up. So this is like a really good mock-up sway bar, arm and link. And I just wanted to kind of show Dylan what this thing looks like with the actual sway bar packaged on here.
So why do you have to run a sway bar on the front of this?
We'll leave it like that. We don't have to. Just we opted to. Just to change the dynamics, the handling dynamics, and make it more like OEM drivable, where it's not just like in the back and you're planted in the back. And I think there's going to be something to be said about this much travel.
I mean, can we admire this? Look at this.
Look at the side profile, dude. It's like,
you guys,
this is the actual length of the arm and the length of the tie rod going through, and it was tons of cycling to get this right because it bumped. The beam cycle's so weird that you got to kind of go through the motions to make the thing work.
Wow.
No, I think I've had like a strange boner for putting sway bar on the front of a beam truck since I was like 19 or 20.
Okay.
Dylan's heard boner, so he's like.
So this is fulfilling that long-term dream.
Yeah, and I don't have this thing all the way in the hole, but it's just chilling. So that's fine. Whoa.
Look at this, man. Oh my god.
So it's
beautiful.
Just like people that have built beam stuff before, the way it's like a big ass A-arm that's like does weird diagonal pivoting. I feel like there's a lot more angle to making the thing cycle right and work right and look right than like an A-arm setup. And we've spent a ton of time making this thing do all that. So
hell yeah.
That's like where we're at. There's 1/4 inch of bump steer on the passenger side and there's 0 bump steer on the driver's side all the way through.
Okay.
And I'll take that.
I am so excited about this thing. It like to see it come to life because I've been here, through the process a little bit here and there for my truck, coming and visiting up here as much as I could. But dude, seeing it get to this level, dude, Sean, you're crushing it. Morgan, you're crushing it. I'm so stoked for you guys, man.
We had like a theme when we started that we wanted integration to be like the word, where we want everything to be integrated. That meaning like things built in ways to help other things with packaging, and the frame to be integrated into the chassis instead of just your typical like build where you'd have a frame and then you'd have like a cage here and then an engine cage here and then you tie the cage to the engine cage with tubes and then you tie the rear chassis with tubes. Like I wanted the whole thing to be like laced up where it's all one chassis from front to rear, where it's all like integrated into the same piece. Same with like the pivots. The pivots are not like a box hanging off of the frame or hanging lower or anything. They're like built into the frame.
Right.
They're all part of it. So it's like it's like a factory looking chassis.
Wow.
Do all that stuff too.
Look at that.
Ackerman's right. The stop is the radius arm.
Sheesh. Impressive.
It's cool. It's it's like my work day. Like if Sean's on this thing, then I'm working on something else, and then he's like, all right, I got this done and ready, and then I kind of go over here and I like assess what we're gonna do or how we're gonna do it, and then it's really a fine line of like, all right, well, I want this gusset to tie into this tube. I don't want it to be completely 90 because I don't like how shit looks when it's fully 90. I want this, and then I want it to spread out and go on tangent, and we like talk about each piece. And it's cool because when I'm not just like solely building it myself, I can look back and
take a step back almost through the process.
Awesome, like and it's really nice because the style and design has stayed similar through the whole truck. So like when you look at stuff, like everything like flows really good. Even if like you look at the beams and the shapes and the angles and like the tapers of the overlays from Cho, and then you start looking at like all the shapes, they're all very, you know, like similar to each other, and it's really nice to look at when I don't see it all the time.
Yeah.
You know, full time. Like it's my truck I'm working on.
That's awesome, man. Yeah.
One of my favorite things on this, so the steering box is obviously like part of it, it's integrated into the frame where it's adapted here. You can see like we've kind of grafted in. We obviously did a really big cut for the diff, and you can see the cross member that lives under there. This is all packaged for the diff. So when this thing bottoms out, it's, you know, less than a ½ inch tailored into this little home that it has. And with that, it's the same with like, then this is integrated. The engine mount is integrated into that same piece. Well, it's hard to see back there, but you can see it now. That's all part of that same unit there. And then the beam pivot does the same thing, and then it comes over and that's tied into the actual cross member that's holding the swinger. And everything is like just very tailored to the design of the beams, and everything works to the design of the beams. What I was getting at with the steering box, it's got this big boxed vertical plate. So it almost added like a gusset to the tube coming down, and we had this void over here. So that void where the steering box was is right here, and we wanted to kind of get similar structure. So this tube is like one of my favorite gussets, just because it's so drawn out here. And it kind of, you know, it's like got tension where the bend is lower in this area, and then it kind of draws into the actual shape of the engine cage. And we'll get this off, but this is all rolled too. So everything, we kept the vibe going with like the rolled roof, and then this comes out of the firewall, same way rolled. Yeah. But I don't know, I really like that tube right there.
Do you plan on having that anywhere else? Any other types of rounded kind of beams in the rest of it?
Well,
I know that's kind of a silly question, but
it's already kind of here. Like this originated from the gussets. So like if you look at this stuff here,
yep,
that's where it all came from.
Yeah.
So obviously that's all final welded, but you can see, do you see how it's like it's not perfectly symmetrical, like it tightens, right? So this portion is tighter here, and then it's got a longer drawn out notch that follows the more structural shape here, you know? So then it just ties into the windshield tube, but this is where the real load is gonna be, so it's got more meat picking up on that. Yeah. So same issue there, or same detail there, and then we'll maybe put one in the back just to tie it in. Sometimes I think you can get kind of, you know, carried away with the firewall treatment for clearancing the tires. And with this, like it's still, this truck is still like it's a Toyota motor. It's Magnuson blown. We're gonna leave it. It's a Toyota transfer case. Nice. So we'll see what the shelf life is on that stuff and adjust.
I'm hoping for a long time, right? Right, Toyota guys out there, right? Huh?
It was really fast. It put down good power when it came in.
You know, there was one of the guys from SoCal Tundras, I think his name's Asmoot, A-S-M-O-O-T.
I hope he pronounces it like that.
A-S-M-O-O. Well, that's
I know
what
exactly
his name,
who you're talking about.
That's his Instagram
Yeah,
name.
yeah.
But I know he had the same motor, same setup. I believe it was just supercharged.
Yeah.
And my buddy Pura and Dan, but they were like drag racing down the drags in Glamis, and he was pulling Dan hard every time.
Strong.
And Daniel's like, "Come on, man," you know, because Daniel Pura and Dan has like a really nice LS motor.
Yeah, he's got a fast truck.
Real fast truck. Yeah. So these things have some power, man, and the reliability is always Toyota. You know, that's just what it is. So
yeah,
really cool.
What I was getting at too with the firewall is just, it's easy to get carried away on sheet metal like that. You know, I'll be the first one to admit that stuff. But what we want to do is try to keep some of this factory. So like this is all clearance for a 40 at bump, at lock. You can kind of see where some of the structure, the chassis structure, is tied into that. But like I just like to add this, especially when you're getting rock splash and stuff, having just flat panel like this, you're subject to dents, you know? So like adding some kind of step, and it kind of represents like factory firewall. You know, it doesn't look like just some gnarly bead rolled thing if there's nothing else there.
Yeah.
Yep, that's 1-to-1 there. So you can kind of see what I was talking about with the bump stops.
Yeah.
You know, all that structure, like that's all part of the door bar structure that kind of laces through. comes to the A-pillar, and then boom, ties into the bump stop. So when this thing's at full compression, it's dispersing the load, which you want it to do. You can see the strike pads kind of ghosted under there. So it actually, this bump goes below sea level on the beam and hits that strike pad. And what this thing is it's a 1/2 inch thick plate here. And then it's got it's 3/16 here where it's broke, so it runs from here, and then it, you know, vertical breaks over, horizontal goes back, and there's a 1/2 inch rib in here that's like a triangle, so that's what's taking most of the force, you know, and then it cups it again with another plate here. So those are just like, that worked for our packaging where we could kind of hide it out back there. And then you can see like the provisions for the sway bar here, all integrated, coilover mount, bypass mount. One of the other things too is we're gonna run the stock dash. So like the center console, yeah, the door panel has it. So the dash has like super nice trim. It's all black and this color.
Oh yeah.
We're gonna run sparkles, but you can see too, like we tailored all this to fit like the stock center console. So there's just a word I'm not gonna use here, hair of room. But it's all, you know, tailored to put the OEM stuff back in. And you know, I kind of a proponent of running like an aftermarket wire harness and all that, but the theme with this truck was like JP is gonna drive this thing from his house out places on the highway.
That's the goal, huh?
Yeah, and he wants all of those amenities, you know. Yeah, so like the trim was sick like this. So we'll get all the carpet in, all the way up to here, and then we're gonna have gun storage back here, nice, under the back seats, and then like a little small part storage too. Cool. Now.
All right, Morgan.
Take us through that.
Yeah, so I'm up on the captain's chair here, no pun intended. I started doing the shock mount on this side. This is kind of like a specialty thing that was really tricky packaging that I didn't want to put on Sean, so of course I finished one side and I did not get to the other side yet. I saved all the templates, but you can kind of see what we got going on here. So it's like a big modular design. It looks like it was built and we put a tube through it, but it's actually a piece welded and seam finished. So it's one big part, but you can see what we're doing here with the core support. Like this is going to be all bolt-on, so the fender, the headlight, and the grill will all be a bolt-on unit. The radiator itself, you can see like this is all the radiator mount. This is its own thing, and you can see it's incorporated into the sway bar. So like this bulkhead for the radiator mount is also part of the gusset for the sway bar, for the front sway bar. And like I said, it's just all mock-up right now, but it's like an accurate representation of the shape that we need. So yeah, 1-inch tubing, all unbolts, ties into the front of the radiator. This is also the dowel portion that's like a machined aluminum bar that goes through here, but it's just using the same mount and the same hardware. But what we're doing right now, like that's where we're at. So shock mount needs to be finished on this side, and then finish out, you know, hard mounts for the headlamp, hard mounts for the grill, and then we will finish out, don't look at those weird eyes, we will finish out the bumper, and yeah, that's kind of where we're at. I keep asking James if I'm talking too much because I could probably sit here and keep going and going and going. So this thing too, we wanted to retain power brakes. Again, like we're ditching the traction control, the stability control, and the ABS, but we do want to keep the you know, the booster and also the factory master cylinder and reservoir. So what this is a 1-to-1 cantilever unit. It's kind of spring loaded, but that's 1-to-1 with a special like seal. It's got like a Heim on the end, threaded for adjustability, and then this guy actually routes the master cylinder and the reservoir into the cab. And what we'll have here, since that's kind of buried, you can see it's like, well, how do you fill that? So we'll have a remote fill for the thing nestled into the dash somewhere, like appropriate, just so you're not having mishaps or having to like go upside down to fill that thing up. And again, you guys, a lot of this is to try to retain some of the factory stuff in a functional way where it's not going to fail. Kind of getting rid of all the crap that we know will not last, and just making it like get in and it feels comfortable, and heater and air conditioner and all the power. And all like the amenities that you would have without doing a full custom harness. The sway bar is super exciting. When the truck's at ride height, the bar is actually like visible above the tire, which is really cool. So I mean, you can already kind of tell how that is. but it cycles all the way through its travel with the sway bar arm on there like that.
So Morgan, when are you guys thinking of wrapping this thing up?
I don't timeline this stuff. Obviously, like,
How do you feel like Sean?
we'll definitely have this thing done by Off-Road Expo. We'll probably have it done in the summertime at some point, like all the way done.
Yeah.
I would expect if we don't, we'll have this at the Off-Road Expo. I don't know if it's going to be with Terra or who it's with, but it will be there.
It will be there.
Yeah. The theme is all black everything on this, so
Love it.
we will do. Keith is going to go through, do all the shocks, all black bodies, black caps. The only stuff that will not be black on the whole truck will be chrome tie rods for the steering, the shock shafts, and then for the sway bar, just the tie rod will be polished or chrome.
Nice.
And that's it. So everything will be black. The whole entire car, everything. This is a wrap, like a flat or satin wrap. I don't mind it right now, and it might even be good to take it out like that and test it. Just
Yeah.
He's never had a link truck. He's never had a vehicle with 2 feet of travel or 3 feet of travel.
Yeah.
Or a yard, but I think he's very conservative and he's calculated. So it's just going to be a learning process for him. And it's not so much like, no, I'm going to go out and roll and blah, blah, blah. No, he's going to he
wants to learn the
I
dance.
will probably have to drive it for him to show him, like, it's okay, you can do
Yeah.
this. Like, you can
Yeah.
go through this. And we'll just get through that. And that's why, coming back to what I was saying, is maybe leaving the wrap on just to get all this pinstriping out of the way before we paint the fenders gloss black.
Right on, man.
So.
Well, I'm excited. This is great, dude.
And the thing is, JP will come out with us. Like, he'll come out with Terra Crew to all that stuff.
Yeah.
100%.
JP actually met JP, I think, at Hell Track. And he's pretty stoked on everything.
He's awesome.
So yeah, we'd love to have him out. We'd love to feature this truck more. If you guys think we got to feature this truck more, please comment below. Let us know what else you guys would like to see in this truck. If there's some details that you guys want to see that maybe we left out, you guys could probably find them on Morgan's channel.
Or ask.
Or ask, and then
Good.
maybe Morgan can comment, or we can follow up on the next episode. I'm thinking we got to do more of this, guys. I'm super stoked on this truck. Ocho Fab Beams, Morgan and Clark, freaking working on this thing and just making it incredible. Really, really stoked on it. Thank you guys for watching.
Thanks, guys.
Help us grow, subscribe, like, comment, and all that bull crap, because it helps us
Bull crap.
do all this
Nailed
stuff
it on
more.
that one.
Pretty much. Bye, guys. Later.